Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a new beginning. You've faced setbacks, you've dealt with frustration, doubt, and fear, but I want you to understand something profound today. None of those negative feelings define you. In fact, they are nothing more than temporary obstacles standing between who you are right now and the person you are destined to become. You have the power to rebuild yourself from the inside out. It's not just about thinking differently, it's about living differently. It's about understanding that what you feel today doesn't have to be the truth of tomorrow. You have the ability to take control, to rise above negativity, and to create the life you desire. Rebuilding yourself isn't a quick fix or a one-time action. It's a journey, a process of turning your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions into the blueprint for the life you want to build. And today, I want to show you how to break free from the chains of negative feelings and step into the powerful, positive version of yourself that is waiting for you. Before you can ever rebuild anything in your life, your mindset, your emotions, your direction, you have to first become aware. Awareness is the root. Awareness is the seed. You cannot change what you refuse to look at. You cannot heal what you keep hiding. The challenge is most people are walking around unconscious, not asleep physically, but mentally. They're functioning on autopilot, living through the same patterns, the same routines, reacting the same way, and yet expecting something different, and they wonder why they feel stuck. Negative emotions, anger, fear, guilt, sadness, anxiety, they don't just show up randomly. They're signals. They're trying to tell you something. But instead of listening, most people numb them, ignore them, or worse, bury them under distractions. That's like trying to fix a leaking pipe by turning up the music so you don't hear the drip. The problem doesn't go away because you ignore it. In fact, it gets louder, deeper, and more rooted in your life. Awareness is not about judgment. It's not about beating yourself up for feeling bad or for having moments of weakness. It's about finally stepping into the light and seeing what's actually going on inside you. When you feel angry, why? What triggered it? When you feel anxious, what thoughts are playing in the background? When you feel unworthy, where's that coming from? Whose voice is that in your head? Because I promise you, it's not yours. You didn't come into this world thinking you were broken or not enough. That ideal was given to you. And if it was given to you, you can give it back. You have to develop the discipline of self-observation, not self-judgment, observation. Watch your own patterns. Notice how you respond to situations. Become a student of your own mind. Why do you keep attracting the same kind of relationships? Why do you keep falling into the same arguments, the same doubts, the same emotional lows? The answer is always in the awareness. There is no healing without truth, and there is no truth without looking inward. Most people are looking for solutions in the wrong place. They try to fix the outside thinking it will change how they feel inside. They change jobs, change cities, change who they're dating, but they never stop to ask why they're making those changes. And so the same patterns follow them wherever they go because they're carrying the same internal blueprint. You don't rebuild a house by putting a new coat of paint over cracked walls. You have to tear down the weak structure. You have to get into the foundation and reinforce it. That's what awareness does. It doesn't just make you feel better in the moment, it lays the groundwork for real, lasting change. You may feel overwhelmed sometimes. You may think, how can I possibly face all of this? But let me tell you something. Once you become aware, you are no longer powerless. You may not know all the answers yet, but you're finally asking the right questions. And that is the turning point. That is where the shift begins. You're no longer operating blindly. You've turned the light on. And even if that light reveals some things you don't like, even if it exposes fears or insecurities you didn't want to admit, you now have something to work with. People don't change because they read a book or hear a quote. They change because they have a moment of truth so strong it shakes the foundation of who they thought they were. That moment usually comes when they stop running, stop blaming, stop pretending, and face themselves. That's the moment where the rebuild starts. And that moment is built entirely on awareness. Think about this. Your mind is constantly talking. There's a voice in your head narrating your entire life. But who's listening to that voice? Who's watching the thoughts go by? That's your awareness. And the more you strengthen it, the more control you take back. You begin to realize, wait, I don't have to believe every thought I think. I don't have to obey every emotion I feel. I can watch it, examine it, and choose something better. That is freedom, that is power. And it all starts with noticing, with pausing, with becoming still enough to hear what's really going on inside. Every emotion you feel is rooted in a thought. And every thought is influenced by a belief. Most people try to deal with their emotions without addressing the belief system behind them. But if your beliefs are still wired to fear, lack, unworthiness or shame, then no matter how much you try to stay positive, your subconscious will keep pulling you back to what it knows. That's why awareness is more than surface level thinking. It's not about pretending to be happy or putting on a mask. It's about going deep and saying, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves me? You don't heal by ignoring the storm. You heal by walking through it, aware of every step. You learn to say, this is what I'm feeling. I don't like it, but I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to understand it. I'm going to ask what it's trying to teach me. And once you learn the lessons, you don't have to carry the pain anymore. That's the beginning of rebuilding yourself, not through force, not through avoidance, but through pure conscious awareness of your internal world. That's where real power begins to rise. One of the biggest breakthroughs you'll ever experience in your life is the realization that you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotion. You are not your past, and you are certainly not the pain you carry. Those are experiences. They are events. They are temporary conditions passing through your consciousness, not the truth of who you are. But most people never separate themselves from their feelings. They get caught in the storm and believe the storm is them. Think about it. How often do you hear people say, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm angry? Without realizing it, they make it an identity out of a temporary state. They don't say, I feel anxiety or I'm experiencing sadness right now. They claim it, they wear it, and what you claim repeatedly, you become. It becomes part of your self-image. And once it embeds in your identity, it's not just a feeling anymore. It becomes a lens through which you see the entire world. But the truth is, feelings are just energy. Emotions are energy in motion. They rise, they peak, and they fall, just like waves in the ocean. You are not the wave. You are the ocean that contains the wave. That emotion might feel heavy right now, but it's not permanent. It's not fixed, and it doesn't have to determine your decisions, your actions, or your future unless you give it that power. You were born with a clean slate, a clear mind, an open heart. But as you grew, experiences shaped your emotional world. Maybe you were criticized, maybe you were rejected, maybe someone you trusted let you down, and somewhere along the way you started to build walls to form beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I can't trust anyone, I'm always alone. And now those beliefs run in the background like software, producing thoughts and feelings that echo those early experiences. So when fear shows up, it's not a sign that you're weak. It's a signal that something deeper needs to be addressed. When sadness rises, it's not proof that you're broken. It's a messenger, a voice trying to say, look here, pay attention. There's something unresolved. But you are not that fear. You are not that sadness. You are the one observing it, the one with the power to pause, to question, to reframe. Most people have been conditioned to live from the outside in. They believe if something out there changes, then they'll finally feel better inside. If the money comes, they'll feel secure. If the relationship improves, they'll feel loved. If the job changes, they'll feel worthy. But all that does is tie your emotions to things outside your control. That's why people ride emotional roller coasters. They're living at the mercy of circumstances, forgetting that they have the power to choose their internal state, regardless of what's happening around them. You can experience fear and still choose courage. You can feel sadness and still choose to move forward. You can have a thought that says you're not enough. That's where your power lives, in the gap between what you feel and how you respond. Most people collapse that gap. They react instead of choosing. But you're not here to react. You're here to rise above the storm and take control of the narrative in your mind. The mind is a tool, a powerful one, but it was never meant to run the show without supervision. If you let your thoughts run wild, if you never step back and observe, you become a slave to the noise. That's why meditation works. That's why journaling helps. That's why silence is powerful, because in the stillness, you remember who you are. Not the noise, not the fear, not the emotion. You are the awareness behind it all. Take a step back from your own mental chatter. Watch your thoughts like you'd watch cars pass on the street. You don't chase every car. You don't get in with every driver. You just observe. That's the same way you treat thoughts and emotions. When you're rebuilding yourself, you look at them and say, is this true? Is this mine? Is this belief helping me or holding me back? That's real inner work. That's what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. And here's the beautiful part. Once you realize you're not your thoughts, you become free to change them. Once you understand you're not your emotions, you can feel them without being controlled by them. You can create space between the trigger and the reaction. You can rewrite the script. You can build a new emotional baseline, not one built on survival or protection, but on clarity, peace, and power. It takes practice. It takes patience. But every time you separate your identity from your emotional state, you reclaim a little more of your freedom. You stop saying, I am sad, and you start saying, sadness is present, but it's not who I am. That one shift in language opens the door to transformation, because now, instead of fighting the emotion or getting lost in it, you're holding space for it. You're listening, you're learning, and then you're letting go. So many people are trying to rebuild their lives while dragging around emotional baggage they never asked for. The key is to understand you don't have to carry it anymore. You can acknowledge it without becoming it. You can face it without identifying with it, because the real you, the powerful, aware, conscious you, is always untouched, always whole, always capable of rising, no matter how heavy life gets. There's a moment where everything changes, not because the world around you shifts, but because you stop reacting and start creating. That moment is when you decide to stop living at the mercy of your circumstances and begin taking control of your responses. Most people live their lives in reaction. They wake up and immediately check their phones, scrolling through other people's lives. They check messages, emails, bad news, social media. They plug into chaos before they even center themselves. From the very beginning of the day, they're in response mode. They're reacting to what life throws at them instead of intentionally shaping what life becomes. When you live in reaction, you become a victim of everything around you. If someone says something negative, you're down. If the weather's bad, you're irritated. If you get overlooked, you spiral into doubt. You've handed your power to the world, and now your emotions, your energy, your direction, everything is dictated by what's happening outside of you. That's not living, that's survival. That's waking up every day and hoping nothing pushes you too far, because you haven't built anything inside strong enough to hold your ground. But you weren't built to live like that. You were born with a mind capable of shaping thought, directing emotion, and bending reality to match your vision. That power doesn't live in reaction, it lives in creation. It lives in your ability to stop in the middle of the storm, take a breath, and ask, what do I want to build right now? Not what do I feel forced to do, not what's the easiest way out, not what everyone else expects, but what do I choose to build, to feel, to become right now? That shift from reaction to creation changes your life. You begin to respond with intention. You stop letting your emotions drive the car and start putting your values, your vision, and your awareness in the driver's seat. Life doesn't slow down just because you're overwhelmed. It keeps moving. The question is, will you keep being pushed by it, or will you finally take the wheel? You can feel fear and still choose to act boldly. You can feel doubt and still choose to believe in yourself. You can be surrounded by negativity and still hold your peace. That's creation. It's when you rise above the knee-jerk emotional responses and become the architect of your inner world. You stop waiting for things to calm down, and you bring your own calm to the chaos. You stop waiting for someone to validate you, and you start validating yourself. You stop chasing the next thing to make you feel better, and you start building something inside that doesn't need to chase. Reactive people blame, they point fingers, they say, if only they didn't do that, I'd be okay. If that didn't happen, I'd feel better. They trap themselves in a loop where peace is always somewhere out of reach. After the problem is solved, after the storm clears. But creators move differently. They say, this is what's happening, but it's not going to define me. This is what I'm feeling, but I choose how I respond to it. This is hard, but I'm harder. Creation doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing how you show up in the middle of imperfection. It means asking yourself, what energy do I want to bring to this? Instead of, why is this happening to me? It's a higher level mindset. It's discipline. It's refusing to let the noise outside you dictate the voice inside you. And it takes effort, because the world around you is constantly demanding your attention, constantly pulling at your emotions. But the more you practice being intentional, the more you build that muscle, and the less power the outside world has over you. You start your day differently. You begin by grounding yourself, by asking, what do I want to feel today? What do I want to focus on? You write it down, you speak it out loud, you visualize it. You don't wait to see how the day treats you. You create the energy you're going to walk in, regardless of what comes in. When things go sideways, and they will, you don't react with the same old patterns. You pause, you breathe, you remember your choice. That pause is where your power lives. In that pause, you disconnect from your programming and reconnect to your purpose. You can train your mind to create instead of react. It's a skill, a way of living. And it doesn't mean you won't feel negative emotions. It means you won't be owned by them. You can acknowledge them without surrendering to them. You can feel stress, but still take focused action. You can feel disappointment, but still speak life over your future. You can feel angry, but still respond with clarity. That is the mark of someone who has rebuilt from the inside out. And when you live from that place, when you take full responsibility for your internal state, everything changes. You stop waiting for motivation. You create momentum. You stop looking for signs. You create decision. You stop reacting to pain. You create meaning. That's when life beams toward you, because you're no longer just surviving what happened. You're sculpting what comes next. Creation is an everyday decision. It's a commitment to no longer be a product of your environment, but the producer of your experience. It's not about controlling the outside world. It's about commanding the inside one. Because once you master that, you realize it was never the circumstance. It was always how you met it. To rebuild yourself, you must understand the fundamental principle that belief drives behavior. But here's the thing. Beliefs don't just appear out of nowhere. They're formed through repetition. Whether it's a belief about your abilities, your worth, or what's possible for your life, those beliefs were not just born out of one single thought. They were shaped over time by repeated exposure, by experiences, by the things you told yourself, by the words others used, by the media, and by every day that reinforced the story you were telling yourself. Repetition is the process by which your mind gets programmed. And that's where you have the power to change everything. The reason most people don't experience transformation is not because they don't want to change, but because they fail to reprogram their belief. They want new results, but they keep acting from the same old belief systems. They think about change, but never truly embed it into their subconscious mind. And without that deep embedding, the mind's default setting will always pull them back to what feels familiar, whether it's a cycle of self-doubt, fear, and negativity. You cannot create a new life with the same thoughts, the same feelings, and the same beliefs that got you where you are today. You have to change the program running in the background. To truly shift the beliefs that control your behavior, you must begin to repeat new patterns. This doesn't happen overnight. Repetition is the secret sauce. It's not enough to think I can do this one time. You have to repeat it until you believe it, until it's no longer something you just saying, but something you truly internalize and embody. It's not about simply wanting to change. It's about embedding that desire so deeply into your subconscious that it becomes your automatic response. When you repeat something enough times, whether it's a mantra, an affirmation, or a thought pattern, your brain begins to form new neural pathways. It starts to shift from the old limiting beliefs to the new empowering ones. And as those pathways grow stronger, they begin to guide your thoughts, emotions, and actions naturally. This is the process of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on new experiences and repetitive actions. But you have to actively choose to create those new experiences. Think of it like this. You're building a new road. In the beginning, it's hard. The grass is thick. The terrain is rough. And you're having to cut through the wilderness. But every time you walk that path, it gets a little smoother, a little easier. Eventually, you've built a road so clear, so strong, that it becomes your default route. That's how your new beliefs are formed. It's through consistent repetition, day after day, even when it feels hard, even when it feels uncomfortable. But the more you practice, the stronger the new path becomes. The repetition is not just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about surrounding yourself with the right influences. You have to feed your mind with new empowering ideas constantly. What you listen to, what you read, who you spend your time with. These are the daily inputs that shape your subconscious mind. You have to immerse yourself in the world of the beliefs you want to adopt. If you want to believe that abundance is possible for you, you need to immerse yourself in stories of abundance. If you want to believe you can succeed, you need to surround yourself with stories and teachings about success. If you want to build confidence, you need to be in environments and with people who uplift you, challenge you, and remind you of your greatness. This is why repetition is so powerful. It doesn't just apply to affirmations and self-talk. It applies to what you surround yourself with every single day. Every podcast, every book, every conversation, every experience feeds your mind. And if you're constantly consuming content that reinforces the old beliefs of lack, fear, and unworthiness, your subconscious will continue to pull you back into that default pattern. But if you choose to immerse yourself in the new beliefs, those that align with the version of yourself you're creating, you are actively programming your mind to think, act, and live in a way that reflects that new identity. The beauty of this is that it doesn't require you to have everything figured out before you take action. Often people get stuck in inaction because they think they need to feel completely ready or confident before they make a move. But in reality, confidence is built through repetition. The more you take action in alignment with your new beliefs, the more confident you become in those beliefs. Each small step is a piece of evidence that your new beliefs are true. And as that evidence stacks up, your belief in yourself and in the possibilities available to you grows. It's essential to note that repetition must also include repetition of the right emotions, because it's not just about repeating thoughts. It's about aligning those thoughts with feelings. The emotional charge you attach to your beliefs is what gives them power. It's not enough to just say, I am successful. You have to feel successful when you say it. You have to allow yourself to experience the emotion of success. Even before the physical evidence shows up, that emotional repetition is what shifts your internal state. The feeling of success will start to pull you toward opportunities that align with you. The feeling of confidence will lead you to take actions that prove you are confident. When you combine repetition of thought with repetition of feeling, you start to build a new emotional foundation that will guide your behavior in a way that supports the person you're becoming. The process of repetition also teaches you to master your mind. In the beginning, it's easy to be distracted by old beliefs or to feel like change is impossible. But as you continue repeating your affirmations, visualizations, and actions, you begin to develop resilience. You start to realize that you can override the old patterns. You realize that in any given moment, you can choose a new thought, a new feeling, a new belief. Repetition teaches you not to accept the first thought that comes into your mind, but to intentionally choose the thoughts that align with your goals, your vision, and your highest self. The secret of lasting change is simple: repetition. Repeat your empowering thoughts, repeat your actions, repeat your emotions, and over time you have reprogrammed your entire mindset. The more you do this, the more natural it becomes. You'll eventually reach a point where you no longer have to consciously remind yourself to think positively, to act boldly, or to believe in your potential. It will have become who you are. And that is when the transformation happens. In your journey of rebuilding yourself, there is one critical yet often overlooked aspect: consistency. Consistency is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without it, all the awareness, all the positive thinking, and all the good intentions will remain temporary. Consistency is the secret that turns small actions into powerful habits. And those habits, over time, build the identity you're striving to create. If you want to see real lasting change, consistency must become your constant companion. It's easy to get excited about change when you first start. You feel the spark, the energy, the possibilities. You dive into the work, you take action, and you feel good about it. But what happens when that initial excitement fades? What happens when the challenges show up, when the doubts creep in, when the results aren't as quick or as visible as you expected? This is the critical point where most people give up. They stop showing up because they don't see immediate results, or they let their emotions dictate their actions. The secret to transformation, though, is not in the initial burst of effort. It's in showing up day after day, even when it feels hard, even when the results aren't immediate, and even when you don't feel like it. Consistency is not about perfection. It's not about getting it right every single time. It's about being willing to keep moving forward no matter what. It's about deciding that the journey is more important than the speed at which you reach the destination. Most people focus on the end result, but real change is made in the small, everyday moments. The times you choose to stay committed to your vision, even when life is challenging. The times you get up and do the work, even when you feel like it's not paying off right away. When you keep showing up, regardless of how you feel, that's where your strength is built. And over time, those small actions compound into monumental shifts. Consistency doesn't mean you have to work tirelessly every second of the day. It means building a routine that aligns with the person you are becoming. It's about creating daily practices, rituals, and habits that support your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. It's about structuring your life in a way that consistently moves you in the direction of your goals. Small actions repeated daily will always yield better results than sporadic bursts of intense activities. It's the habit of doing something consistently, even if it's just a little bit each day, that produces mastery. Look at any area of success in life, whether it's fitness, wealth, relationships, or personal development, and you'll find that consistency is the key factor. It's not about working out for 3 hours in one day and then never exercising again for a week. It's about showing up every day, even if it's just for 15 minutes. It's about doing something, however small, that propels you forward every single day. Over time, those small actions add up and create massive transformation. But the commitment to showing up daily, no matter what, is where the power lies. When you think about building consistency, it's important to understand that it's not just about pushing through every day, no matter the circumstances. It's about creating a foundation where your actions are aligned with your goals and your goals are connected to your values. When you are aligned, consistency becomes much easier because you're not forcing yourself to act. You're not grinding or pushing through. You're building habits that feel natural, that are in harmony with who you are becoming. That's the difference between creating long-lasting change and feeling like you're forcing yourself through something. Part of consistency is learning to make it a part of who you are. Consistency becomes less about checking off a to-do list and more about integrating the practices into your life. When you can do that, when you can show up every day doing the work, staying aligned with your goals and not needing constant motivation, everything begins to shift. You start to see results, not because you were working harder, but because you were working smarter with intention and with persistence. The cumulative effect of showing up consistently is what leads to mastery. The power of consistency also lies in its ability to build confidence. The more consistently you show up, the more trust you build in yourself. You prove to yourself that you can be relied upon. You prove to yourself that you are capable of creating change, and that trust in yourself becomes the cornerstone of your new identity. When you show up for yourself every day, you're telling yourself that you're worth the effort. You're telling yourself that your goals matter. And you're telling yourself that your transformation is not optional, it's inevitable. But consistency isn't always easy. There will be days when your motivation is low, when obstacles get in your way, or when you feel like you're not making progress. And this is where most people falter. They stop because it gets hard, or they stop because they feel stuck. But that's when consistency is most important. On the days when you feel like giving up, that's when showing up, even if it's just for a small task, becomes your biggest act of courage. It's in those moments when the resistance feels strongest that your growth is happening. So don't be afraid of the hard days. Don't be afraid of the setbacks. They're all part of the process. And the more consistently you show up, the more you build resilience and the more you prove to yourself that you are capable of overcoming anything that comes your way. The key to building consistency is creating a rhythm, establishing rituals that center you and help you move forward each day. Whether it's a morning routine that sets the tone for your day, daily reflections that keep you focused, or consistent actions toward your goals, the key is finding what works for you and sticking to it. And when you hit a roadblock, when you stumble, it's not a sign to quit, it's a sign to get back up and keep going. Because the real magic happens when you keep going, even when you don't feel like it. That's where your power lies. When you show up every day, no matter the circumstances, you show yourself that you are in charge. You prove to yourself that you're building something real. And over time, that consistency will not only change your habits, it will transform your life. In your journey of rebuilding yourself, there's one vital principle that cannot be overlooked: embracing the power of resilience. Resilience is not just the ability to bounce back from adversity. It is the ability to maintain your strength, clarity, and focus in the face of it. It is the ability to weather the storm, not because the storm isn't real or painful, but because you cultivated the strength to stand firm no matter how harsh the winds may blow. Resilience is the cornerstone of transformation. Without it, setbacks can feel like insurmountable barriers, and obstacles can feel like they will break you. But with resilience, no challenge is too big, no setback is permanent, and you understand that every difficulty is simply an opportunity for growth. Resilience is not something you are born with, it is something you develop. It is forged in the fire of hardship, in the face of trials, and in the moments when everything seems to be falling apart. It is in these moments that you must dig deep and remind yourself of your power. It is in these moments that your commitment to your vision, your belief in your own strength, and your faith in the process must carry you forward. Resilience is built by doing the hard things, not avoiding them. It's built by facing fear head on, pushing through moments of uncertainty, and trusting that you will come out stronger on the other side. One of the key aspects of resilience is learning how to shift your perspective. When things don't go as planned, when obstacles arise, and when life seems to throw one challenge after another your way, it's easy to get caught in a cycle of frustration, disappointment, or even despair. But resilient individuals understand that these challenges are not roadblocks, they are part of the journey. They understand that setbacks are not signs of failure, they are lessons in disguise. Every obstacle offers you the chance to learn something new about yourself, to refine your approach, and to grow stronger in your determination. When you change the way you look at problems, you begin to see them as opportunities for personal growth. Instead of being defeated by adversity, you embrace it as part of your evolution. And with every challenge you face, you gain more confidence in your ability to overcome whatever comes your way. Resilience also requires emotional strength. It's easy to stay positive when everything is going well, but true resilience shines through when you're faced with adversity. It's not about suppressing your emotions.